I appreciate it. Ms. Denny's, I'm just going to alter that question a little bit for you to get a different perspective. Mr. Kennedy says, hey, look, county's screwing up. They can't even respond in timely fashion to these calls. Mr. Hathaway is saying, you know, we need to have a balance and have the home rule. How do you balance the reality of consolidation versus the increasing pensions and the costs that come with fractionalized public safety law enforcement?
Well, you're not going to solve that overnight for several reasons. We have, first of all, different contract negotiations that have been, you know, the different municipalities and organizations. There's legal contracts in place that cannot just be swept aside. There's contractual agreements. As far as pensions go, you alluded to it earlier, the city of Port Orange, you know, through contract negotiations, is trying to get theirs under control, doing a pretty good job in some areas. But here's the thing with this. When you have a contract, there's two parties involved. One party says, I'll do this, the other says, that I'll do that. If a municipality or a government during the good times did not contribute to that contract when they should have, I don't think it's always fair to blame our first responders on the other side. Do we need to take a look at the contract? Sure we do. You've got defined contribution versus defined benefit. I work with that in retirement pensions all the time. That's a huge, huge issue. But here's the other really bigger underlying issue. We're geographically the size of Rhode Island. So to consolidate and to get one organization, you're going to have misstreets. You're going to have misconnects, only because the physical boundaries are just so doggone large to manage.
Mr. Tully, I apologize for taking up all the time. You can take it over with the audience, please.
Okay. Anybody have a question for the candidates? Put your hand up. Okay.
Linda Hyatt, Oak Hill. I have met with Miss Dennis down in Oak Hill, and Oak Hill will be in your district if you are elected, you two gentlemen. What can you offer us, or what exactly? We haven't even talked about Oak Hill here. We go from Edgewater to Mims. Oak Hill's there in the middle.
Well, there's no doubt that Oak Hill has a lot of potential to become more than it is. It's a beautiful city. There's natural resources. Some of the property in Oak Hill is some of the prettiest in Volusia County. But for some reason, Oak Hill has often been stepped over, and I think it might be for some of the same reasons that you see in the state of Florida, that even South Edgewater has been, by and large, neglected. They go straight to Brevard County. You've got main corridors that go back and forth from Orlando with the Space Center in Brevard, and I think that might be some of the reasons why. But what can the county do to help you guys? What can the city of Edgewater do to help you guys? Continue to work on your infrastructure, getting your city water, city sewer, and start putting into place, working on your comp plan to become more, to grow your tax base, to become more of a place where people can live and actually do business. It's tough. I have a lawn maintenance and landscaping company. Everybody that I employ lives in Oak Hill. For 20 years, my employees always seem to come from Oak Hill. And what I recognize some of their problems is traveling. They have to come to Edgewater to work. And over the years, they eventually moved to Edgewater. Now, with the charter school down there, at least you have the ability to have some people in your community and keep your kids there. But over the years, Oak Hill's going to have to step up and work with the county and Edgewater and define what it is they want to be, and work together with your neighbors to try to grow up to be whatever that is. Maybe you don't want to grow. Maybe you want to stay a nice, small community.
If I could interrupt, Mr. Hathaway, if you are elected and Ms. Hyatt and Mr. Gibson, they have shown a lot of concern that we just don't have the money to do these things. You can do all the comp plans and studies you want. Isn't it time for the county to step up to the plate for Oak Hill?
I think the county's responsible to step up to the plate to all the cities in Southeast Volusia. I mean, if you ask that question and specifically mention Oak Hill, you're going to get that argument from New Smyrna Beach that we've been sometimes looked at as being the ugly stepchild in the Southeast Volusia district as well. I mean, the argument is how much service do we get? Is it all lip service? Are we actually getting the representation we want? Are we getting what we need to do? And then that's up to the elected officials and their manager or clerk make sure you're buttonholing your elected officials and making sure that your clerk is buttonholing the county manager to get what you really need to have accomplished. Obviously, interlocal agreements need to be in place. They should be in place between Oak Hill and Edgewater. I mean, Oak Hill has a fire department provided by the county. Edgewater, I know, has had some issues with the county over the payments of covering some of these areas. They need to be looked at. They need to be scrutinized. They need to make sure that we're not mistreating our sister cities and making sure that you're getting what you need. Obviously, you attend Volusia League of Cities functions, and we try to represent you in advocacy programs. We go to Tallahassee. We try to fight for what you want to have accomplished.
Excuse me.
Your legislature.
Mr. Hathaway is extremely passionate about this issue, but I have to interrupt him, and I don't mean to be rude, but we want to get some more audience to ask the three candidates a question.
Well, how about a comment from
Can I-
Oh, yeah, please,
Deputy?
please, I'm sorry.
First of all, what the county can do is several things. Oak Hill enjoys a very significant rating, and Oak Hill is the only city out of our 16 municipalities in the county, and that they're an enterprise zone. And an enterprise zone allows businesses to come in and enjoy tax credits, job credits, a release of impact fees. And where you're located in the Spaceport, Florida, in the transportation corridor, through this whole intermodal system of aeronautics and aviation, you're poised right at the right place. We have to make you more noticeable and marketable in the enterprise zone. First of all, I met with your former mayor, Susan Collins Cook. They're doing a tremendous job in your seafood co-op down there in Oak Hill, highlighting local seafood from your area and the aquaculture that's really taking off. That's another jewel and an asset that's underutilized. And the third thing is your charter school. When I was just down there with the principal, Jan McGee, they were putting in, I think it's an 8,000 square foot building that NASA donated. And I believe you're getting ready to go up to talk to the International Space Station, your students, at the end of August with a ham radio club. I believe they're from Holly Hill. So there's a lot of things going on in Oak Hill that's not just going to make you look good, it makes Volusia County look good, but there's some things that we can do proactively to market some of that and just get you out there a little bit more. But you're not forgotten, and I think you're a hidden jewel, in my opinion.
Ms. Denny's, just to follow up, you are very good about going to the small community and talking to everyday people and getting consensus. How can you convince the Jim Deneen's, the Frank Brunos, the Carl Persises, and the bigger empires of Volusia that Oak Hill has any meaning to it? What will you do in 2 years to see that that happens?
First thing I would do is not just them. I've got 6 other county council members that we have to pull into this. We go down to Goodrich's and we have breakfast when the sun's coming up. My favorite place, take me anywhere. I told my husband, take me to Goodrich's down on the water with the sun coming up by boat. Just get me on the water. So we go down there and we have lunch at Goodrich's. We tour the Oak Hill area. We let them see the seafood co-op. We tour the charter school. We look at the possibilities. We take the enterprise zone. And then we get Frank DeBella, who's president of Spaceport, Florida, to come up and do the same tour. There's things that we can do. It's already there. We just need to work collaboratively and have them buy into our dream and vision.
You think you get Larry Zonka to do it?
I bet you he'd be the first one there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know we don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Oak Hill, but I grew up in Mims. And I do know Oak Hill. The question is it true that Oak Hill has the highest millage rate in our county and that DeBerry has the lowest? I understand it's $28 on 1,000, and that's not fair for Oak Hill. I don't know that.
I can answer that question for you. DeBerry is the lowest. Oak Hill is not the highest. The highest is actually, well, yes, Oak Hill, including your fire district through the county, you are, because you're up to 10.02 mills. Because you don't have a local fire department that would be in your city mills. Your city mills are actually right around the middle.
Just wanted to clarify, I might have made a mistake in terms of the odd numbered districts because of census. Are you 2 years or 4 years, District 3?
We're 2 years
That's
into
what I
this
thought.
time.
Odd numbers.
All right, Mr. Hathaway, we can throw it back to the audience. I won't want to forget this. it's kind of naive to think that you would be anti-growth or anti-economic development because you were against the hotel. Could you clarify for us why you consistently were against that hotel?
Sure. I believe in balanced growth. I believe everything has a place. I grew up on Flagler Avenue. My family's business, Hathaway's Food Store, was there from the time I was a little boy until the time I sold it at the age of 37. That was in 1990. You know, I know all the businesses that have come and gone in that time frame, and I knew how beautiful and pristine that area was that the CRA purchased back in 1986 or 87 for a off-the-street parking lot. We never changed it. We put some shell in there. We put some, car stops in there. It was a beautiful area. It also kept a lot of the retention water that had runoffs off the side streets so that the neighbors didn't get flooded. I tried to get Mr. Swinter to look at other locations before he selected that spot. I tried to encourage them to have a smaller footprint on that building, that location, and he told me financially it just wouldn't work. Unfortunately, my fellow commissioners thought that this was the right program at the right time, and it is what it is. People will say that I was out there photo opping when they were breaking ground. The truth of the matter is, as an elected official, you give it the best fight you can. And when at the end of the day, regardless of how the vote plays out, if your elected body decides to go in a direction, you get on board and you go in that direction.
Is that the golden shovel?
Well, that's the golden shovel, absolutely. You go out there and you show the people you're behind the project. Now that the project is built, I want it to succeed. I certainly don't want it to fail. I want the operation to go forward. I want it to be successful. I want the tax dollars to come into the community. I want the jobs to come back to the community. And so, for anybody to think that I'm anti-economic growth, they're crazy. I'm a small businessman. I need to have all the growth I can. It helps my business grow in Southeast Volusia.